Lamar Jackson certainly has received a ton of attention in his short NFL career on social media, television, from supposed legit commentators before the draft, during the draft, once his career started, and then moving through these next 3 seasons as a full-time starter, 19, 20, and 21. I've certainly, tried to chronicle a lot of it on my channel. I kind of feel like you could put out a Lamar Jackson video every day and keep it interesting because there's so much to talk about with him. His running ability, his throwing ability, his contract situation, his regression, quote, in 2021. Look at the first 9 games. And you'll see from last year, you'll see 3 instances of him putting the team on his back, putting his Superman cape on and putting the team on his back. And then 2 other games where the Ravens defense just ate people alive and he didn't really have to do much. I'm talking about the Chargers game and the Broncos game. So the stats are really weird for him before he was sick in week 11 and didn't play against Chicago and then got injured in week 12 and only threw the ball like 4 times. So we could talk about the wide receiver group. We could talk about the Bengals' ascension and whether they're going to continue to grow. And then we could talk about the return, hopefully, of our 2 talented and really tough running backs. But what I'm going to talk about in this video tonight is a little bit different. And it's been covered, I'm quite sure. You can let me know in the comment section once we get into the film. I don't do a Lamar Jackson video every week, but I could, like I said. And tonight I'm trying something a little different. I'm going to try to highlight a different skill that I think shows a high-level processing, and I don't like that word. But my main point of this video is something very specific, that the way Lamar Jackson plays tells us what he thinks of his teammates. And here's what I mean by this. I think he believes in them. I think he trusts them. Now, you can talk about the O-line in 2021 if you want to, very poor, and there would be no reason to trust them. That situation will be drastically different this season, so I'm moving on from it. But what I'm going to do here tonight is I'm going to show certain plays, specific examples of Lamar doing something that maybe some of us complain about at times, holding on to the football. Letting routes develop downfield. And then trusting his, in doing so, trusting his receivers and tight ends to work their way open while he dodges and navigates the pass rush. This first one here against the Vikings is not a huge pass rush. You could say, oh, he left a clean pocket. Well, no one's open. Mark Andrews is the design of this route. It's an over concept, part of a flood to the top side of the field. You can see there's no routes being run to the bottom. That's essentially a clear out route by the tight end Oliver, and you also have a clear out route by the receiver Marquise Brown, kind of like an out and up towards the far sideline. Lamar's eyes are up. He's certainly reading the left side of the field, which is the only place where there's routes developing. You can see these linebackers do a great job. Specifically Kendricks here, he's doing what's called a wrong read, meaning he turned his back to the quarterback when he realized it was play action. Look, neither Andrews is open, nor either of the 2 clear-out routes, nor the check-down route, which is up there on the 38-yard line on the far side of the field. So Lamar takes off for a pretty good gain. As you get the end zone angle of this, you'll see initially Lamar's going to look to his left or right. He's looking at Marquise Brown on the out and up, comes back left to right to Oliver, and then Andrews. So this first one, he wasn't really forced out of the pocket, but he recognized during the progression that no one was open, so him scrambling was the best option. So this is a more complete example of him navigating the pressure, moving up in the pocket, and then hitting Sammy Watkins on this little underneath drag from the right-hand side of the screen for a pretty good gain. I'm going to digress for a moment and talk about stats. Look, I found a ton of plays like this from last season, whereby he was forced to make a decision on who to throw the ball to while moving around in the pocket or being flushed out. I think it's pretty obvious that if he doesn't have to do this type of thing 6 or 8 times a game, Lamar Jackson's stats are going to be much better, which to me is just going to make him more efficient. All right, the next one you're going to see against the Colts, he doesn't really get flushed out of the pocket or have to move, but I really love this concept. It's out of a bunch right. You're going to get like a deep in route by Marquise Brown, a wheel by the outside receiver. Mark Andrews is going to adjust his route because he's not initially open. All right, so as we check this out from the end zone angle, what you'll see is that Lamar is clearly looking over to the right. He might be looking at the wheel by Prochet, or he might be looking at the deep end by Marquise Brown, but in any case, he's got a guy in that window. Simultaneous to that, Mark Andrews, which I believe will be the second option there. Leonard did a nice job protecting the hash initially. You also have a third route developing, which was a drag from the backside by Duvernay. Now, Andrews recognized that he was not open, so he adjusted his route, brought it back to the sideline. What that did was that pushed him back into Marquise Brown. Some people would say, oh, look, the Ravens are running routes right into each other. No, they're not. Mark Andrews adjusted his route smartly, and Lamar found it. Does the Ravens passing game deserve scrutiny? Sure it does, but your analysis or your Twitter takes need to be consistent. And in some cases, one route is adjusted, hide away from the pressure while remembering the route concepts that are developing and find someone. Now, this is just an example of being an unbelievable playmaker, and these are the types of things that defensively, if you're dealing with a person who can do this, it's demoralizing. But I don't want to get off topic too much. That's not the point of this video. The point of this video is his ability to do this and move while still maintaining awareness and knowledge of what the route concepts are. Now, this is a broken play, but there were still multiple decisions he had to make. First, he had to slide left and then juke his way back to the right. Eventually, he had to decide to throw the ball down this lane that developed between 2 or 3 defenders right along the right side of the A in Vegas. As impressive and unbelievable as that one was, I think this one's even better. A bootleg concept against Detroit. This DN from the defense's left isn't going to go with the running back at all. He veers off to Lamar. Now, the ball's eventually going to be thrown to Sammy Watkins, but this DN has Lamar out-leveraged, his hips outside Lamar's hips. Lamar's able to escape him with his speed, stiff-arm him, and then get the ball back here to Sammy Watkins at a weird throwing angle back across the field. In my experience, if you make this throw in scramble drill during practice, your coach is going to fuss at you, even if it's completed. Look, Lamar had to negotiate that D-end who he stiff-armed, that other defensive lineman who's out near the sideline, maybe an outside backer, and then at least 3 guys who were in the throwing lane, along with 2 primary defenders on Sammy Watkins. The special and unbelievable thing about Lamar, he can make traditional quarterback plays the very next play after doing something sick like that. Now, this is actually 2 plays later. You have like essentially another flood over concept. Mark Andrews is going to be the intended receiver here. Lamar gets pressure from his left. You won't be surprised who it's from. But the key is he's able to keep his head up, maintain great posture and understanding of the routes as they're developing. Pressure comes from his left. He's able to sense it, slide up into the pocket a little bit, keep his eyes downfield, find the time and space to deliver the football to Mark Andrews over top of the strong safety who was playing like curl flat. I don't know what more else people want in terms of what a quarterback is able to do. And he can easily survey the field and go through his progression. How can you tell me that Lamar Jackson can't return to 2019, 2020 type stats? And look, I'm not a stats guy. I freely admit that all the time. I don't sit and peruse stats just to be able to quote them back to people on Twitter or via text or whatever else, because in all honesty, our best player, our quarterback, he's not a stats guy. He's just about wins. That's all he is. And in trying to win, sometimes he makes unbelievable plays like this. This will be on his career highlight reel. From the end zone angle, you'll see how ridiculous this is. You know, we recently just finished draft season, and we're still all celebrating how great the Ravens draft was. Look, Lamar made plays like this in college at Louisville. He did. And if there was a guy in this last draft who made like 5 overall plays like that in college, he would have been the number 1 pick overall. No doubt about it. Lamar probably made 45 plays like these. This is another one against the Eagles in 2020. Offbeat, scrambling to his right. Somehow is able to find Nick Boyle down here where there's 5 defenders within like 7 yards of him. If you subscribe to my channel or you frequent my channel, you certainly didn't need a reminder about how dangerous Lamar Jackson is. Look, you can do things like this. What, for all intents and purposes, looks like a pass play, even though no one's open, not the number 1 receiver, not the number 3 receiver. Now, you could say that maybe Duvernay, who I think is in the slot down here to the field, is possibly going to break open on this out route, but I don't think this is a pass play anyway. But when you have a guy like Lamar Jackson, you can run these kind of like design QB draws. When you get the end zone angle, you'll see that Bozeman, the center, will essentially look back, waiting for Lamar to go. It looked like the tackles allowed the DNs to get upfield. Now, that's me giving them the benefit of the doubt. Certainly, they were beat many, many times last year on their own, regardless of who was in there, McCarry, Ronnie Stanley, or obviously Alejandro Villanueva. My overall point here in showing a lot of this film was to illustrate, hopefully, that Lamar Jackson is able to process things quickly. I hate that word processing. It's overused by a lot of people who just want to use catchwords to sound smart in terms of football. But he is able to process things quickly while being on the move, flushed out of the pocket. In some cases, and in other cases where we should not ask him to do these things that I have shown you tonight 10, 12 times just in the first half. And there were games in 2021 where he had to do that because of the reduced level of talent offensively and defensively as a result of all of the injuries. I do not believe that the plan is to force Lamar Jackson to make plays like this repeatedly throughout 4 quarters. We have other playmakers. We have guys that he can facilitate to. And that's what, a lot of the other quarterbacks in the NFL do. They are facilitators. They get the ball to the playmakers. Lamar Jackson is a little bit of both. Let me know if I was able to make my point strong enough in this video. I know it's fun to watch Lamar Jackson make plays, but my intention was to show how unique Lamar is in that he can show quarterbacking skills while relying on his unbelievable athleticism to escape pressure. Thank you guys for checking out the video. The next one I intend to do on Lamar will come up in about a week, and what I will do is break down about 6 or 7 of his interceptions from last season and compare his decision making and skills on those plays only to other quarterbacks around the NFL who are asked to execute similar concepts.